Welcome to the Swine Health Black Belt Podcast, the latest swine health research digested for you. My name is Dr. Clayton Johnson, and I'm the host of the Swine Health Black Belt Podcast. Joining me today is Dr. Erik Eckhardt. Dr. Eckhardt is the R&D Director for Adare Biome, and he's here today to talk to us a little bit about postbiotics. Erik, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Please, if you would, give the audience a little introduction and some background on yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Erik Eckhardt. I am Director R&D here at Adare Biome, in about 45 minutes west of Paris. So I joined the company in September of 2021. Before that, I had about a 10-year experience in R&D in nutrition and health, 50% in human nutrition and health, half in the R&D on solutions for digestive health and monogastrics. Before that, I spent as my Ph.D. about 13 years in academia, working mainly on research on interactions between diet, microbiome, and host in areas of intestinal inflammation and food allergies. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. Mostly because I need some education on what postbiotics are. I'm familiar with probiotics, and I've even heard of prebiotics and symbiotics, but postbiotics is a new term for me. So, Erik, if you could, help me understand, what do we mean when we say a postbiotic?
Yeah, sure. Well, a postbiotic is a inanimate, so a no longer replicating microorganism, or a preparation containing fragments of such a microorganism that provides a benefit to the host. That's the definition that was coined in 2021 by the International Scientific Association for Pre- and Probiotics. So our specific postbiotic is a preparation made with lactobacilli. So we cultivate two strains together, and at the end of the fermentation process, both strains are heat treated, so they no longer replicate, and they are then dried together with the spent culture medium. So it contains a lot of metabolites already in the preparation. So, and our postbiotic is, I dare say, the godfather of postbiotic. It's been around for more than a century now, and initially for applications in human digestive health, but since a couple of years, we're starting to also develop a dossier for animal nutrition.
What's the value or the upside in having a postbiotic that is not an active infectious organism versus just the organism itself still in its live state?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it has a couple of advantages. First of all, you don't have the same restrictions in terms of being compatible with incorporation into feed, with storage, and also you don't need to worry about survival of the microorganism in the stomach and bile-rich environment, because it's no longer living. It's also a bit easier to store, I would say. So, with especially non-spore forming probiotics can be a little bit difficult to store. And then another advantage, I believe, is that at least in our postbiotic, which also contains the metabolites have already been formed during fermentation, you don't need to wait for let's say a probiotic to become active in the digestive tract and to start making the metabolites, because they're already there. So there's a lot of practical advantages, but also some advantages in terms of their mode of action.
Excellent. What about the historical use of the product? You mentioned that this is not a new thing. Has it been used in other species, and if so, how do they use it?
Yeah, so our product has been developed more than a century ago, and it's been used for actually treatment of diarrhea in adults and kids. So we have a complete dossier of clinical studies showing its efficacy in diarrhea. So, and it's still sold as a drug in some countries and as a food supplement in others. We also when we decided to see if there was value of using this product in the livestock industry, we started with pigs, with post-guinea pigs, but we are also working on poultry. And besides that, we are also targeting the pet food market. So it's a pretty exciting time right now. We're sitting on a whole bunch of clinical studies, and we're starting now to run many trials in animals to see if the product works there as well.
What age of pig are you typically administering the product to try and help with diarrhea?
Yeah, so our traditionally we have done a lot of studies on diarrhea related to some common pathogens, and we have quite a lot of in vitro data and some in vivo data showing that the product can reduce the risks associated with some forms of pathogenic E. coli. So that made the transition to nursery pigs logical, because their E. coli is still a very important risk factor for post-weaning diarrhea. So that's why we decided to first test the product in piglets that were either naturally due to a challenging environment or artificially exposed to pathogenic forms of E. coli. So we've done initially we've done challenge studies with F4 positive E. coli that showed that made us very confident that that it works. Now we have also a study that was published last year on F18 positive E. coli in a challenge study. So I think so. Of course, we try to first target a system and trial and study in which we were sure that pathogenic E. coli was involved. But I think that the overall working is more related to rendering the animal more resistant to maybe a variety of pathogens. Especially the study in 2022 taught us something very interesting that was published by Dr. 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗏 Kim at Radboud State University. What he observed was that the products, when you administer to post-weaning piglets, it actually has an impact on the jejunal and mucosal microbiome. So that was that to me was extremely interesting, because it shows that these lactobacilli that are in the product, which we know to have an affinity for the epithelial cells, or for the mucosa lining the intestine, it showed us that it acts locally by having a profound impact on the microbiome. So it sort of creates a microbial environment locally that makes the animal a little bit more resilient, more resistant to all sorts of challenges, including, as it seems, F18 positive E. coli.
Can this product be used as a prophylactic product for control? So I try to put it in because I think I'm going to have an E. coli problem or some sort of diarrhea issue, and I put it in before I see the clinical signs, or can it be used as a treatment after I see the clinical signs, or both? Potentially, it can work.
Not we don't want to. We wouldn't want to promote this as a treatment, not at all. So we really want it to act as prevention. So the studies that we've done were always preventative studies. So we gave the product right from weaning all the way till the end, mostly till the end of the post-weaning period. And then we saw that when we challenged the animals, like from a week till 10 days in that feeding period, we saw that the animals that received the albiotics had much less diarrhea, mortality, and better growth also, despite the challenge. So it's definitely preventative. So we by no means are using this as a drug. It's an ingredient that helps the animal cope better with these very common and very important challenges.
You mentioned this is relatively new to the animal livestock space, but this product is available today in the United States, and a producer, a veterinarian, a nutritionist listening to this podcast, they could purchase it, they could include it. It's available today, correct?
Yes, we have a distributor in the United States that sells the product. We launched it last year.
So if they communicate and they look for 𝗘𝗃𝗿𝗿𝗏𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏
probiotics, you will be directed to our website and you will be able to find more information about where you could get this.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show, Dr. Eckhardt. I really appreciate the information. It was wonderful education for me to learn about yet another kind of category of feed ingredients, feed supplements with the postbiotics. And I'm sure for our audience, for some of them, it was probably new as well, and did a wonderful job of explaining it. To the audience, thank you very much for tuning in to the Swine Health Black Belt podcast. If you have not gone and visited our website, please go check it out. You can find not only Dr. Eckhardt's work here, but all of the podcasts we've done, and certainly subscribe to our podcast. Share it with a friend. We feel like we bring a lot of good practical research to the field, and this is just one example of many of what we're doing with the Swine IT Group and the Swine Health Black Belt podcast. Dr. Eckhardt, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
To our audience, thanks for listening. We will see you next week. Please have a great rest of your day. Hey, everyone. We're always searching for the latest and greatest research to share each week. If you have a swine health-related research trial and would like to come on the show to talk about it with me and share it with our audience, feel free to send an email to healthblackbelt@swineit.com, and we would love to take a look at your research.